Hey, what's up everybody? Commander Radix here, bringing you another episode of Transformers Lore. In this episode, we're going to be talking about everything we know about the Knights of Iacon. I originally wrote this script way back during my Transformers Lore Movie Week event, but it was scrapped mostly because I watched Transformers the last night, realized how confusing it made the lore of the Knights, and then I just kinda gave up. But this time, we're going to properly delve into the lore of the Knights, although the world building the Knights received was a bit lacking and scatterbrained. But before we get into the main topic of this video, I'd like to mention that nearly 80% of you watching are not subscribed to the channel yet. If you like what you see in the video and want to see more that Transformers Lore has to offer, please consider subscribing. It'll help the channel grow, and it's a great free way to support me and video production on the channel. And hey, you can always unsubscribe later if you change your mind. But with that out of the way, let's jump into today's topic. Universe, Tyran 707.04 Delta. We are introduced to the Knights through the film Transformers Age of Extinction, where we learn that long ago there existed an order of Knights. These included the Dinobots, Cybertronians with alt modes based off the dinosaurs, who were destroyed on Earth by the mysterious creators long ago. Optimus Prime, one of the last of the Primes, was also a member of this order, and together they explored the universe in a ship that seems to be redesigned from a creator ship. At some point, Optimus would become separated from the Knights, while the Dinobots and their ship ended up being captured by the bounty hunter Lockdown in service to the creators. This takes us to the primary events of the film, where, in 2018, in the Battle of Hong Kong, Optimus Prime managed to reunite with the Dinobots, though Prime's memory of them seems to have faded. After fighting side by side in the battle, Prime lets the Dinobots go free, while he himself goes after the so-called creators. So, through Age of Extinction alone, our knowledge of the Knights is pretty vague, but we can create more context for this continuity with its expanded universe fiction that is canonical to the Movieverse. We know that Optimus Prime is a descendant of Prima, which means he also was around back during the time of the 13, though he was not allowed to know about his heritage, because it would only put him in harm's way thanks to the 13's conflict with the Fallen. During this time period, the 13 had created a race of Transformers called Seekers to explore the universe, and it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to see how the Knights performed similar duties to the Seekers. In fact, around this point in time, the only Cybertronians around were created by the Allspark, as budding had not taken place yet. It appears the Knights were at least somewhat similar to the Seekers, and Optimus joined with them, possibly as part of a plan by the 13 to keep him from learning his heritage. Eventually, Optimus would return to Cybertron, where he would be discovered by Sentinel Prime's forces, while the Dinobots went on their own way, eventually being captured by Lockdown. Things become more complicated once the film Transformers: The Last Knight is released, where we are introduced to the Knights of Iacon, or the Guardian Knights. Specifically, there are stated to be 12 Guardian Knights, though we clearly see more than 12 on screen, suggesting that perhaps the Guardian Knights are a group within the larger Knights of Iacon. These Knights of Iacon, in ancient times, rebelled against Quintessa and stole her staff before leaving on a ship different than the ship we saw the Age of Extinction Knights use before, and went to Earth, where they formed an alliance with King Arthur of England against the invading Saxons. The Last Knight opens a lot of questions. In some ways, the Knights of Iacon seem to be a different organization than the Knights introduced in Age of Extinction. They appear to have no involvement with the creators, their ship is completely different, and when they see the Knights' ship from Age of Extinction, they don't appear to recognize it. When they meet Optimus Prime when he is under the control of Quintessa, the Knights proclaim that Prime has betrayed his own kind, which can kinda be open-ended as he is serving a great evil against the Cybertronian race. However, Upon recovering his mind, Optimus calls the Knights his brothers and that he will never betray them again, specifically talking to the Knights, which suggests that Optimus indeed has some kinship with the Knights. It doesn't help that The Last Knight is a piece of fiction created after the Shroud, meaning it is canonically allowed to contradict the original backstory involving the 13, a backstory that plays a heavy role in the Movieverse. We also never see the Knights interact with the Dinobots, and I have some questions about the Dinobots in this film as well. These Knights do not participate in the final battle against Quintessa, and they also seem to have given birth to the mini Dinobots, which is unexpected but not completely unheard of. Interestingly enough, there is a lot of foreshadowing to the end times in the Last Knight film, such as the talisman sword Excalibur being one of the 7 signs. In Transformers Generation 2, a late discovery of budding beyond what Primus had intended would result in the creation of the destructive swarm. Perhaps the birth of these mini Dinobots is another sign of the end times. Regardless, though the connection is very vague and not well developed due to poor writing, I think we can put the pieces together to see the larger picture of the history of the Knights. There will be a fair deal of speculation here, which I don't usually like to do, but I think you'll see the same threads that I do. Besides, it's not like it matters anymore when the Shroud ended multiversal fiction and the Bayverse has abruptly ended as well. In the earliest stages of time, the 13, in search of an energy source for the Allspark Cube, creates 2 races of Cybertronians. One race, the Constructicons, exist to build solar harvesters, to harness the energy of suns to power the cube. The other race, the Seekers, exist to scour the universe, in source of suns to power these solar harvesters. At some point, though it is unclear if this is before or after the fall of Megatronus, Optimus Prime is born as a descendant of Prima through the Allspark. Regardless of whether or not his birth was before the fall of Megatronus, Optimus's identity as the heir to Prima is kept secret from him to avoid him becoming a target of the Fallen. Another group of Cybertronians, presumably Seekers as well, are the Cybertronians that will become known as the Knights. These Knights have beast-like modes, with some of them having the ability to turn into dinosaurs, a type of creature that was wiped out by the mysterious creators long ago to create the Allspark Cube in the first place. These beast formers become a special order known as the Knights of Iacon, and they are sent out in a ship that used to belong to the creators. How the Cybertronians got their hands on a former creator ship is unknown, but it is possible the Knights of Iacon were sent out to find the mysterious creators by the 13, as their beast modes seem to be connected to the organic worlds the creators destroyed to create the Allspark Cube. In order to protect his identity from the Fallen even further, and to get Optimus off Cybertron, Optimus Prime is sent with the Knights as well into deep space. It appears at some point an incident happens. The sequence of events is unclear, and what happens next is also vague, but the next thing we know, the Knights have been split into 3, with the Dinobots continuing their search in the creator ship until they are eventually captured by Lockdown, a bounty hunter working on the behalf of the creators. Optimus finds himself on Cybertron, unsure of how he got there, with a very blurry memory until he is discovered by Sentinel Prime, and the remaining Knights of Iacon are in service to a mysterious being who calls herself Quintessa, the Prime of Life. The Knights are in a new ship that is designed to function with Quintessa's staff, which can drain the life force of Unicron and, presumably, Primus as well. An incident happens where the Knights realize that Quintessa is lying to them and using them, so they steal Quintessa's staff and take off in their ship away from her. The Knights eventually find themselves on the planet Earth, the slumbering form of Unicron post-Shroud, by the 5th century CE in England, which was then under the rule of King Arthur, facing invasion by the Saxons. Merlin, Arthur's court wizard, contacts the knights, and in 484 CE, the knights participate in a battle against the Saxons, as the capital of Camelot shows to the knights that the humans are worth protecting. The knights seem to adopt some ideological ideas of human knights at this time as well. The knights seem to have been working in the shadows alongside the English crown from this point on, with 12 of their rank being partnered with the Knights of the Round Table, becoming the special guardian knights who were tasked of keeping Quintessa's staff secret. The staff is given to Merlin, where it bonds with his DNA, so that only he and his descendants can use it, with the Order of the Witwickens created to support Merlin, his descendants, and to keep the secret of the Transformers. It seems that, upon Merlin's eventual death, the knights took his corpse and his staff with them in their ship, where they went into stasis in the Atlantic Ocean. Before this, one knight was sent out with the sword Excalibur, also known as the Talisman, perhaps to keep an eye on Quintessa. If Quintessa were to ever make her move against Earth, the knight was to present the sword to somebody worthy. In 2018 CE, Lockdown comes to Earth, with the Knight ship and the Dinobots on a mission from the creators to hunt down Optimus Prime. However, Optimus, only barely recognizing his former brothers-in-arms and the Dinobots' memories being vague also, manages to free the Dinobots and take back control over their ship before fighting side by side in the Battle of Hong Kong, killing Lockdown. Optimus lets the Dinobots go free, although they decide to stay with the human ally Cade Yeager, and Optimus himself goes to find the creators, a mission that will fail as he falls into stasis without energy. At some point, the Dinobots appear to have budded and created the mini Dinobots, the sign of the end times. In 2023, Optimus is captured by Quintessa, a post-Shroud entity that is coming to Earth, and she converts him into Nemesis Prime. The Talisman Knight notices Quintessa coming to Earth, and he returns to Earth, giving the talisman to Cade Yeager, which leads him on a journey to the Order of the Witwickens and the last descendant of Merlin, Vivian Wembley. They eventually discover the Knight's ship under the Atlantic Ocean before falling under attack by Nemesis Prime. The Knights of Iacon awaken and criticize their former member for betraying them, and after Optimus recovers his mind and Cade Yeager intervenes with Excalibur, the Knights decide to reunite with Prime against Quintessa. After a final battle, Quintessa is seemingly destroyed, although she does survive, while the Knights and the Autobots retain control over the staff. And that's where the story ends. The Bayverse ends quite abruptly, but nothing good seems like it's going to happen. The creators remain a mystery, one of the largest mysteries in Transformers lore, considering the key role they play in the earliest bits of history in the lore. Unicron remains ominously in the form of Earth, with Quintessa still alive and claiming, or perhaps lying, that she knows a way to kill him. And an ominous Cybertron looms over Earth, with the Cybertronians hinting at more interaction with the humans. While there are still many, many questions that will likely never be answered, no, Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast are not set in the same universe as the Bayverse, I hope I at least answered some questions regarding who exactly the Knights are. And that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I do videos on a range of topics that includes history and Transformers, so if you're a nerd who likes nerdy things, consider subscribing to the channel. As I said before, nearly 80% of you haven't subscribed yet. It's free and you can always unsubscribe later. Don't forget to check out all my social media links in the description to see what's going on with me. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.